Alright, what up, though? We right back, you feel me? With the Secrets of the Underground Railroad. Right now I'm strolling through the motherfucking Instagram, you know what I'm saying? I wish I could have found my books, but right now I'm going through it, so I just had to do what I had to do. Just come here and get it off the gram where I had it already. Matter of fact, let's hit it up on the ignorant. Let's go to the book. So I know on the book I got the bullshits. I'm with the shits on the book. That's my baby. Shit a little wild, but you see this shit get a little spunky over here. Motherfuckers be having all that motherfucking extra energies. Let's see. Underground Railroad, blah blah blah. Let's go to the post. Of course my shit is right up tip. Let's go right on in here. But like we were talking about before, yeah, we read over how what Lambert and we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Basically was clothing and tattering niggas, double selling you to the north, you know what I'm saying? You would be sold twice. You think about that. Motherfucker tell you, I'm gonna come get you off your family's land. Cause this thing about this, let's go back into this story. Okay, we talking about Negroes that own plenty of land in the South. Negroes own more land than anybody else in the South, like hands down. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it a buck. And we don't call them Negroes. I like to call them Indians. Synonymous word. Negroes, Indians, Seminoles, uh, whatever they wanted to call us. You know what I mean? At that time, they ain't gonna switch a million times just like they do to you today. So let's just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Like we said, the African American mystery and the order of the men of oppression. Now, the crazy part about these motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? Let's keep going. You know what I'm saying? We read all the questionnaire on what they had to say and all that shit. And then we was getting into Prince Hall. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? As they were talking about it, they were getting into Freemasonry. And it says more, you know what I'm saying? I'm jumping into this, but this motherfucker Morant, you know what I'm saying? They'll tell you that Mark Twain was writing from, he was making the shit up. You know what I mean? They tried to discredit Mark Twain and say he wasn't writing a true story. You know what I mean? But he was writing real names in it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So let's just keep it moving. It's like Morant's sermon at the hall. You know what I'm saying? We heard that he was doing the Egyptophilia and all that shit. You know, where he was basically bringing over all that hijack, all the bullshit. He was teaching niggas to be Pan Africans, you know what I'm saying? They was teaching, they was disconnecting you from the land through education. You know what I'm saying? Miseducation of the Negro, aka Carter G. Woodson gets a high five from the guys. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it. You know what I'm saying? Over here, Morant's sermon in Prince Hall charges, and it will investigate Hall's African Lodge of Freemasonry as a point of or origination for the Ethiopianism tradition. So all this extra Africa Black Power shit, this comes from Prince Hall. This comes from John Morant. They were giving these sermons. These Freemason ass niggas, Albert Pike butt lackeys, these motherfucking hoe ass niggas, you feel me? Let's just keep it real. I tried to keep this shit, you know what I'm saying? PG-13, but I just can't do it, man. Like these motherfuckers right here is the scum of the earth. If I could dig a nigga up, it's I'm hey, may may God show mercy on your ancestors, cause I hope you niggas ain't claiming these niggas. Prince Hall's life history is like the history of the Black Freemasonry, has been subjected to some of the debates of William Grimshaw's 1903 official history of Freemasonry among the colored people of North America. Initiated the popular story of Prince Hall was born in Barbados to a white father. It's always a mulatto nigga with the bullshit free. Let me put that on. You know what I'm saying? Let on my mixed niggas, cause I'm mixed. You see my ancestry, but it's these certain motherfuckers that just got to do some sucker shit. So already, like, listen to this. So Prince Hall was probably 25% nigga. You know what I'm saying? He was Barbados, Barbados to a white father and a free mulatto mother, or French descent. That his family fled the terrors of America, and that Hall later became a Methodist minister. Contemporary scholar of Black Freemasonry, he has observed inconsistencies in Grimshaw's of account in the most part rejected its historian Charles Wesley's working from compelling. The archival documents claim that Prince Hall was made a slave to a household of Boston leather tanners. William Hall, at the age of 11, was married November 2nd, 1760, to Sir Ritchie, a servant of another Boston household. Shortly Ritchie's death, 1730, Prince Hall was manumitted and numbered of men named a number of men named Prince Hall appear in Boston marriage records after 1770. So there's a couple of motherfuckers named this. You know what I'm saying? So this is like a secret agent name. For scholars of the early, everybody that they trained up and brought up from that Barbados, like it's kind of weird thing. Like they would take you over there, re-educate you, bring you back, and then send you amongst the Negro. It's some other shit. For the scholars of early African American literature, the questions of influence can be particularly vexing. American writing about African and Africans preceding the emergence of the first African American writers by the century or more. On the basis of the written records of the old historians could claim that the religion made a Phyllis Wheatley only belief in artistic genius of contentment to the idea of the resistance purveying new historics from saying the same, not only about Wheatley, about 18th century black poet Jupiter Hammond as well. The origins of black political discourse have proven similarly resistant to historic unraveling. When did Africans in America begin to describe themselves as a people? You know what I'm saying? When did we become a whole monolithic motherfucking group? Because it was never that. You know what I'm saying? Different tribes, different people, different backgrounds. Now all of a sudden these niggas come out and say, hey, that white boy did this to you. And now, you know what I'm saying, with the checkerboard, they lay the checkerboard underneath your feet. Now you stand on a black square, you stand on a white square. Now let's argue. You know what I'm saying? They want you to hold your square, and the whole time they sit in the back, they slapping fives like Henry Louis Gates and other fuck boy. You know what I'm saying? They get up there and they tell you all this bullshit. They fake argue and they bring you to hijack. But let's get back into this. You know what I'm saying? When did they become? How did the geographical formulations such as Africa, Ethiopia, and Egypt become key words and conceptual touchstones on every black nationalism? Robert Alexander Young Ethiopian Manifesto in 1827 and David Walker's Appeal to the Colored Citizen of the World are generally acknowledged as the primary print instances of black nationalism and literary Ethiopianism, but the intellectual prehistories of the manifesto and what appeals to remain to the subject of speculation and debate of W.E.B. the bitch, you know what I'm saying, not Du Bois, claimed that the tale of Ethiopian shadowy and Egypt sphinx was the remnant of an Egyptian and African ideas preserved by the diaspora scattered tribes following Du Bois. Some scholars continue to affirm that they veiled original black nationalism in Ethiopia and Egyptophilia as a product of instinct, ideology, and experience. Others have attempted to specify textual sources for these traditions. St. Clair Drake emphasizes the influence of biblical proof texts on the development of Ethiopianism. More recently, it has been suggested that the African American first got the idea of glorious African past in 18th century natural histories accepted in the American colonizational society, African reciprocity. So once again, we back to the ACS. Now, my son, he's a quarter Liberian, so, you know, I done sat in the room with these niggas, man. I done been elbow to elbow at the dinner table, big Choctaw feathers sticking out the head. I asked them, are y'all Americos? You know what I'm saying? Are y'all niggas that left America and went over to Liberia? No, they were not. You feel me? They was crew. So, them being crew by genealogy or just by blood, you feel me? They had a disdain for an American Negro because we came over there and enslaved them. We came over there, pushed them into the inland, took them off the coast, took their trading, killed up their presidents, brought dope over there. You know what I'm saying? Real wild Indian shit. The liquor, rummed them out, brought the heroin. We did all that. Brought that French connection for the Mackenzieites and the Rothschilds. And you begin to notice this. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it sliding. So 1775. In the tax records of the post-war Boston Hall appears in the connection with a number of businesses, enterprises, and leather tanners, caterers, and merchants, and grand masters of honorary Masonic official hall shops located first on Wall Street under the sign of the Golden Fleece. All right, let's go back once. Oh no, Water Street underneath the sign of the Golden Fleece. My bad, y'all. So, in 1775, the tax records of the post-war Boston Hall appears in a connection with a number of businesses, enterprises, as a leather tanner, caterer, merchant, and grandmaster, or honorary Masonic official. Hall shop located first on Water Street under the sign of the Golden Fleece, and later just opposite of the Quaker Meeting House, Quaker Lane, served as a staging ground for something theatrical public activities of Boston's Black Masons. On December 30th, 1782, Boston's Independent Ledger reported the St. Black Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons made ceremonial processions to Hall's Water Street house, where an elegant and splendid entertainment was given upon occasion. Halls later filed a correction with the printers. So you telling me that this motherfucker, supposedly ex-slave, was just grouping up a bunch of niggas, you feel me? Not even, you know what I'm saying, barely ex-slave. I'm talking about this still around the time when you get your head knocked off for the extras. And not only when you get your head knocked off for that extra shit, don't try that shit in Boston. Don't let them motherfucking Catholic Irish. We ain't talking about your Celtic, dark dub, black Irish. We talk about the new redhead mixed out, you know what I'm saying, your Catholic Irish. They came in and was fucking motherfuckers up. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of Conor McGregors walking out, hit niggas with the quick punch. All right, off the bullshit. Uh, Only title is not St. Black's Lodge, neither do we aspire after high titles, but only our desire is that the great architect of our universe would diffuse in our hearts the true spirit of masonry, which is love to God and the universal love of all mankind. This I humbly conceive to be the grand pillars of masonry, instead of the splendid entertainment we had agreeable on the brotherly love. Whatever, niggas. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it going. We got stuck off in that. Let's see. We don't just go to shit made by me, because a lot of people niggas laying butt to butt, pissing and shitting on each other, talking about that's how it happened. No, it didn't. All right. It says Underground Railroad was a business, a secret order, Lambert modulated. I think I read this to you guys. Let's make sure. Yeah, I read this. Let's get into the Mark Twain, what he was talking about. You know what I'm saying? Mark Twain says, here is a paragraph or two concerning this big operator for a now forgotten book which is published half a century ago. So this was, Mark Twain took this from another book. You feel me? So he's basically giving you a narrative. You know what I'm saying? He's letting you know some history. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, like I said, they're gonna try to tell me I'm crazy. They're gonna try to tell me shit that make no motherfucking sense. You dig me? But this shit right here, my nigga, 1+1 is 2. Never the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just go ahead and get into it. He appears to have been the most dexterous as well as commemorative villains. When he traveled, his usual disguise was that of a itinerant preacher. Itinerant preacher. And it said his usual okay, that's an itinerant preacher. And it said that his discourse were very soulful and moving. It's all black preachers are. Yes, sir. Yes, Lord. Hallelujah. Bring me your money. Invested. He gotta be, you know what I'm saying, slick with the tongue in order to get you to agree to be kidnapped twice. You feel me? Like, come on. Interesting that the hearers so much that they forgot to look after their horses, which were carried away. He gave such good soul moving preaching things that his homeboys was robbing niggas on the backside. And interesting that the hearers so much that they forgot to look after their horses, which were carried away by his Confederates while he was preaching. but the stealing of the horses is one state in one state and selling them in another was but a small portion of their business. These are these are the other half of the bad guys. Remember John Lambert was talking about the McKenzieyites. Now, from what I understood about the McKenzieyites, we gonna go look into it in a second. I'm gonna make sure I write that down to make sure I explain that the McKenzieyites was going against these niggas. So you had your McKenzie, not even going against these niggas. They're just like another subsect of this Masonic gang, the black version. So the McKenzieyites, they were coming underneath the guise of the Rothschilds, and also you had this nigga, my man's, I'm forgetting his name right now, but we're gonna see his nickname for his group too, and it's gonna come underneath that ites, you know what I'm saying? That ism, that ites word too. Okay, I lost my spot, y'all. Work with me. Okay, and the horses, they said it was carried away. It was just Confederate state. It was a small party business. The most lucrative was the inciting slaves to run away from their masters, and they might sell them in another quarter. This was arranged as follows: they would tell a Negro that if he would run away from his master and allow them to sell him, and he should receive a portion of the money paid for him, and that upon the return to them a second time, they would send him to a free state, which he would be safe. The poor wretched the poor wretches comply with this request, hoping to attain money and freedom. They will be sold to another master and run away again to their employers. Sometimes they would be sold in the manner 3 or 4 times their until they realize until wait a minute, it says until they realize $3 or $4,000 by them. But as after this there was fear of uh detection. Okay, detection, my bad, my shit a little blurry. And usual customs was to get rid of the only witnesses that could produce that could produced against them, which was the Negro himself, by murdering him and throwing his body into the Mississippi. It's like they said after they made $3,000-$4,000 off you back then, you feel me? They ran it up. That's I'm a guess. Like if we talking about slavery, where they was selling motherfuckers for probably like I was hearing little shit for you know what I'm saying, every bit of like $300 to like $1,200. So you know what I'm saying? They was either sell they sold you hella times, boy. They was getting down, just flipping you thousands of dollars by them. But as far as after this, there was a fear of detection as usual custom. They would get rid of the only witness that could be produced against them, and which was the Negro himself, by murdering him and throwing his body into the Mississippi. Even if it was established that they had stolen the Negro before he was murdered, they were always prepared to evade punishment, for they concealed the Negro who would run away until he was advertised and reward offered to any man who would catch him. An advertisement of this kind warrants the person to take the property if found, and then the Negro becomes the property in trust, a property in trust of the state. So now, basically, you know what I'm saying? You're now the first. This is the beginning of slave catching. This is jail, nigga. You can become property of the state till somebody come get you. You know what I'm saying? Nobody come get you, you gonna fuck around and get sold by the state. You feel me? Trust. When therefore they sold the Negro only to become a breach of trust, not stealing, and from a breach of trust, the owner of the property can only have redress by a civil action, which was, like it says, useless, as the damages were never paid. It may be inquired how it was the Morrell escaped lynch laws under the circumstances. This will be easily understood when it stated that he had more than 1,000 sworn Confederates, all ready to at a moment's notice to support any of the gang who might be in trouble. The names of all the principal confederates of the Morel gang. So they was called something like the Morelites, the Morellites or something like that. Were obtained for himself in a manner which I shall presently explain. The gang was composed of two classes, the head or the council, and they were called who planned and concerted but seldom acted, or concentrated but seldom acted. They amounted to about 400. The other class were the active agents, and they were termed strikers and amount to about 650. These were the tools in the hands of the others. They ran all the risks and received but small portions of the money. They were in power. They were the power of the leaders of the gang. Would sacrifice them at any time. It was, you know what I'm saying? Do you hear what this is, man? It sounds like the Jesuits, nigga. Like you don't know who's your partner to the left or the right unless they graduated with you. And after y'all leave here, the only person you gonna notice a Jesuit is the big homie. You know what I'm saying? And you take orders from him, but whenever they done with you, boy, you ain't gonna know who gonna be the nigga to knock your head off. That's the Jesuit way. So this sounds very Jesuit like. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it real. Uh, Let's keep it pushing. Small portion of the money. They were powerful leaders of the gang, would sacrifice them at any time by handing them over to the justice or sinking their bodies in the Mississippi. The general rendezvous of this gang and the miscreants was on the Arkansas side of the river, where they concealed their Negroes in the Morriseys and cane breaks. Oh, they would put Morris's and cane breaks. I think they were talking about making like sugar. So this is how you would make like sugar, those cane stick breakers. I used to see those. The deception of the extensive combination were severely felt, but so well were the plans arranged that although Morel, who was always active, was everywhere suspected, there was no proof to be obtained. It so happened, however, that the young man of the name Stewart, who was looking after two slaves, which Morel had decoyed away, fell in with him and obtained his confidence, took an oath, and admitted into the gang as one of the general council. By this means, all was discovered, for Stewart turned traitor. This bitch ass nigga flipped on the gang, nigga. Turned traitor, although he had taken the oath and having obtained every information exposed the whole concern, the name of all the parties, finally succeeded in bringing home sufficient evidence against Morel to process his conviction and sentence to the penitentiary. Morel was sentenced to 14 years imprisonment. So many people who were supposed to be honest and bore the respectable names in the different states were found to be among the list of the Grand Council published by Stewart. That every attempt was made to throw discredit upon his assertions. His character was vilified, and more than one attempt was made at assassinating him. He was obliged to quit the southern states in consequence. It is, however, now well ascertained to have been all true, and although some of the blame Mr. Stewart for having violated his oath, there was no longer an attempt to deny the revelations were correct. I will quote one or two portions of Morel's confession to Mr. Stewart made to him when they were journeying together. I ought to have observed the ultimate intentions of Morel and his associates, or by his account, a very extended scale of having no less an object in view than raising the blacks against the whites, lacking possession and plundering New Orleans and working themselves uh, as possessors of the territory. So they was trying to take over the whole Stout gang style. They was stealing everybody. They was trying to recruit you into the gang to steal more niggas. And like I said, man, if they ain't make no money off you, you wasn't really worth nothing to them, boy. off with your head. You feel me? And also said they was filling their bellies up with rocks and sinking them into the Mississippi. If you know what I'm saying. I collected all my friends about New Orleans at one or friends' houses in that place, and we sat in a council 3 days before we got our plans and our notions. We then determined to undertake the rebellion at every hazard and make as many friends as we could for that purpose, every man's business being assigned him. I started I started to Natchez on foot, having sold my house in New Orleans with the intention of stealing another. After I started, I walked 4 days and not no opportunity offered for me to get a horse. Oh, my bad, I said a house, a horse. So he sold his horse and started out on foot, and then 14 days later, he still hadn't found a horse. Okay. Oh, so I walked 4 days and no opportunity offered for me to get a horse. The fifth day, about 12, I had become tired and stopped at a creek to get some water and rest a little. While I was sitting on a log looking down the road the way that I had came, a man came in sight riding on a good looking horse. The very moment I saw him, I was determined to have his horse. As if he was, my bad, y'all. Give me 1 second. Fucking mouthed and got in the room here and going crazy. The very moment I saw him, I was determined to have his horse. If he was in the garb of a traveler, he rode up and I saw him. Uh, I don't know what the fuck that says. Uh, is a funny word, equipage, that he was a traveler. I rose and drew an elegant rifle pistol on him and ordered him to dismount. He did so. I took his horse by the bridle and pointed down the creek and ordered him to walk before me. He went a few hundred yards and stopped. I hitched his horse and then made him undress himself, all to his shirt and drawers, and offered him to turn his back to me. He said, "If you are determined to kill me, let me have time to pray before I die." I told him I have no time to hear him pray. He turned around and dropped on his knees, and I shot him through the back of his head. I had ripped open his belly and took out his internals and sunk him into the creek. I searched his pockets and found $400.37 and number of papers that I did not take time to examine. I sunk the pocketbook and the papers and his hat in the creek. His boots were brand new and fitted me gently, and I put them on and sunk my old shoes in the creek. Uh, uh, to atone To atone for them, I rolled up his clothes and put them in his portmanteau. I think that might be like a backpack, as they were brand new clothes of the best quality. I mounted his fine horse, and as I stabled and directed my course for Natchez, is much better style than I had been in the last 5 days. Myself and the fellows by the name of Crenshaw gathered for. Do you see these motherfuckers? Do you see what they on? You see what type of time they moving on? 400 miles of distance. In 1876, all the regions now called the Centennial Islands. There is a tradition that the Island 37 was one of the principal abiding places of once celebrated Morel gang. This was a colossal combination of robbers, horse thieves, Negro stealers, and counterfeiters engaged in business along the river some 50 or 60 years ago. While the journey across the country towards St. Louis was in progress, we had we had no end of Jesse James and his striking history, for he had just been assassinated by the agents of the governors of Missouri, and was the consequence of occupying a good deal of space in newspaper and the cheap historic histories of him were for sale by train boys. According to these, he had the most marvelous creature of his kind that had ever existed. It was a mistake. Morrell was his equal in boldness and plunk and uh, rapacity and cruelty and brutality and heartlessness and treachery and general uh, comprehensive villainous and shamelessness, and very much his superior in some larger aspects. James was a retail rascal. Morrell was wholesale. He said, "You talk about some motherfucking Jesse James. My boy John Morrell wasn't to be fucked with. He'd kill you. He'll take, you know what I'm saying? You see this nigga said I sat down the bank and cut a nigga's stomach out. You know what I'm saying? Sink your ass in the river. He didn't give a fuck. You know how cold you gotta be? Let's just be real. You know how ice cold you gotta be? You just seen these Saw movies and shit. You can see how much, you know what I'm saying, back splatter you get when you stab a motherfucker. Not only did he stab him, he shot him through the back of the head. So while their head is open and blames all over the fucking floor, this nigga cutting your belly open. This is a sick son of a bitch. And this is what Prince Hall and them is pushing down into the South to come get you. You feel me? This is who they white overseers or they big dogs sent to come push you to the north into these factories to turn the loyalists and the black landowners to go up to Detroit, to Ohio, to the Midwest to help them industrialize that motherfucker, to help build up Canada. Then after they did all that, what's the first thing these fuck faces said to you? Let's get on the boat and go back and send your ass to Africa. Not go back, send you to Africa with the American Colonization Society to fuck with them motherfucking Liberians, to fuck up Ghana, to fuck up Freetown, all that. So you know what I'm saying? You seeing where it's starting. We gonna get there though. Don't worry. It says very much his superior in some larger aspects. Okay, James was a retail rascal. Merrill was wholesale. James's modest genius dreamed on no loftier flights than the planning of raids upon cars and coaches and country banks. He used to rob your boy Jesse James and them, you know what I'm saying? They got off robbing Freeman banks. You know what I'm saying? These niggas would put the money in there, then let you rob the niggas. You feel me? You couldn't rob the white boys, but it was cool to rob Freeman banks. So Morrell's projected Negro insurrections and the capture of New Orleans and the furthermore occasions that Morrell could go into a pulpit and edify a congregation. What are James and half dozen vulgar rascals compared with the stately old time criminal? With the sermons, he is meditated insurrections and city captures and majestic following the 1,000 men sworn to do his evil will. So you can see this motherfucker wasn't playing around. He was getting to it. You know what I'm saying? He was doing his thing. Hey, baby. Give me 1 second. The ground. All right. See you in a second, though. We'll get back into that one. That's some family history right here. And once I get into them census, like as you can see, let me see if I could just do a quick example. It's all the same, my family, but most, my family is on this page. As you see, this is the free inhabitants. You know what I'm saying? My family are the Poes. We down here in the bottom left. You know what I'm saying? All we down here from like, look like that's line 20 something on down. No, that'd be like 21. We are 21 on down. As you see, they're marking this as mulattoes and white in that one. You see, we still free here. Then you'll come over here. This is Big Unc Uramus. Uramus is one of the most, you know what I'm saying? He is one of the most industrial men to ever touch Mississippi soil. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it a buck. Like, nobody fucking with the fam. I'm gonna give him their credit where it was due. But you see everybody below him. Uramus was 80. 75, 70, 68, 32, 30, 30, 30, 27, 27, 27, 18, 17, 17, 15, 11, 11, 13, 13, 13. He had 3 10-year olds, two more 7-year olds, a 5-year old, two, one, and somebody that was just born. Everybody black on this census. Everybody black, even the people over here on the right. Let's come over here. That looks like it says the Grecian family, and somebody would have mixed something, McMillans or something. You got the Kelly family down there. You got the Petermans. All right, my bad, y'all. So it says the Poe brothers relocate to Wayne County, Mississippi. Pushman Tyler was very frequently welcomed guest to the home of Mr. Alexander Poe, successful planner who lived in near Winchester. Mr. Poe had a very large number of slaves, and like all Indians, Mr. Tyler had a very great antipathy against Negroes. Why? It doesn't make sense because it ain't like we did shit to him. To please his guests, it was all the same people because, as you see, my family was Negroes, but Mr. Poe required one of his Negro men to stand behind Pushman Tyler's chair. This, yeah, I can show you 3 other books where what I'm saying, the account sounds less racist, depending on who's writing it. Because like they just said, Pushman Tata. Also, we said my family wrote in a book that he chewed very loud, was very ignorant. You know what I'm saying? So they told somebody, "Oh, please go over there and wipe his mouth off," because the boy was eating like he never ate before. That's basically what it was. He was enjoying the food, eating extra crazy, and they was trying to, swore nigga, you in Indian territory, you from South Carolina, you from the Cheraw tribe, you trying to build a connection. You remember the Terrell, they were coming off of that line of like Georgia. I get a map. You know what I'm saying? They come off that line of Georgia before they pushed up into South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? They were part of that Confederacy that was down there with your Lower Creeks and your Seminoles and your Masseys and the final, you know what I'm saying, of our big homies. You feel me? We came out of that line and we came down here to try to, you know what I'm saying, get away from the fuckery because it was a lot going on in South Carolina as for an Indian at that time. So as you see, I'm saying, push him down his chair, fan him while he ate. The Negroes also held a towel and a napkin, which was to wipe the distinguished guest's mouth. And when he became greasy, the marked attention pleased that the old warrior was very much as emphasized his superiority over the Negro who he hated. That's because this motherfucker, and let's keep this real. Another thing, this motherfucker, it's so hard to prove that he was like this motherfucker had to be an Asian, a Native American. Other than that, he was just a white boy. He was just a white boy. There's you know what I'm saying. They try to like keep you off the trail of his genealogy so you don't know who he is. But this is to me a white boy plant from the government sent over there to sign the dancing rabbit treaties and you know what I'm saying to make everything go their way. That's basically what he did. The state of Georgia. His Excellency David Mitchell, the Governor and Commander in Chief in the Army of the Navy of the State of the Militia, therefore to all whom he present shall come, or whom same may concern greeting, know ye that the bearer herefore, Mr. William Poe, with his wife, 11 children, and 46 Negroes from Chesterfield District, South Carolina, have my permission to travel through the Creek Nation, they taking special care to conduct themselves peaceably towards the Indians and agreeably towards the laws of the United States. In testimony, therefore, I have hereunto set my hand and cause to execute the seal of the state and affix thereunto. It says done at the State House of it says Mildredge on the 12th day of April in the year of our Lord 1811 and 11, and the independence of the United States of America, the 35th by Government Anthony Porter, Secretary William Post, settled about 1 mile north of the present day Buckhanna, and his brother Alexander settled about 3 miles higher up on the Chickasaway River, 2 miles south of Old Winchester. On the old Mississippi, their immigrants, when they reached the Chattahoochee River, had to abandon their wagons as the Creek Indians would not allow them any trees to cut in allowed them to cut any trees in their territory. Rolling hog heads were constructed out of oak staves, and they were packed full of the effects of the pioneers and rode through the Indian country, mules and pairs of mules being hitched to them by means of staffs and poles. And they said that one of the Poe brothers, having a considerable amount of silver carelessly packed into a hogshead, which had been filled with bacon. When he had reached Wayne County, he found his bacon ground in the hash and the silver coins among worn almost beyond recognition. The pioneers settled in Wayne County and found a small tribe of Indians, the Haiwanais. This is basically where my grandmother comes from. She comes from this tribe, and a lot of people, you know what I mean? Like, it's because when we get there, we instantly just start smoking peace pipes, kicking and chilling, communicating. A lot of people don't. They try to write that part out of the story, but we also, you know what I'm saying? We knew the language. You know what I'm saying? Northeast part of the history of the tribe has been assigned to Han Peter J. Hamilton for investigation that will not be treated in this connection. As you can see, they're always just like try to ignore that part of my family history. Like, so let's just keep it going. Okay, let me see this. I might even give a fuck about. Yeah, just some old boring shit. Where's my good posts, man? I think these. Cause you see, I be in these motherfucking final battle groups clotheslining niggas for the fun of it. It's kind of fun sometimes. Sometimes you niggas get a little sensitive when it come to this real history shit. Okay, we got that. We got that. Shout out to Big Hawk. Shout out to Big fucking Hawk. Shout out to Hawk School, my nigga. Realest one. One of the realest ones to ever do it. If you can, get over there, show him some love. You feel me? Because he helped me with a lot of this shit. You know what I mean? It's a lot of this shit. So there were millions of people living in the West that were not Africans, but were reclassified as Africans and became because of the reclassification, they became non-descendables. If you believe your skin was dark, then it was believed that you were from Africa, and therefore your indigenous nationality was stripped from you. Okay, so now let's go to type of Liberia. It says resolutions were also adopted calling upon the War Department for a statement of the numbers of surviving officers in Continental established not to be in pensions, list upon the commissions of the naval hospitals for the amount of the sum they received, and expanded the balance of unexpected upon the Treasury Department for the statement of compensation, allowing survivors, or I think that's what that says, survivors of the United States, resolution calling for a statement of amount of annually received and expended for the rebrief of the sick and disabled seamen from 1819 to 1886 was offered by Mr. Tomlinson. A resolution offered by Mr. Haley relieved to removal of the Choctaws and Chickasaw Indians to the west of the Mississippi after some discussion was laid on the table as a resolution offered by Mr. Weems to inquire into the expediency of assisting such free people of color as they wish to be sent to Liberia was rejected, and the House joined with taking the Bill of Revolutionary Claims. Okay, it says on the great European observers of Africa was the pioneer settlement of Liberia, which abutted Sierra Leone to the east. Like Sierra Leone, it was founded the home of free slave loyalists, black European shit. The American Colonization Society, founded in 1816, sought to encourage free slaves to immigrate to West Africa, partly for genuinely philanthropic reasons, but also to rid the United States of the unwelcome presence of free people of Indian and African descent, anybody colored, as you can see, whose existence might make the remaining in slavery more prone to a revolt in 1821 after protracted search along the West African coastline for the suitable spot. Society agent Dr. Elias Ayres, as a United States naval officer, Robert Stockton forced King Peter, ruler of the Day people, is to sign away their perpetual ownership of a portion of his kingdom and society and settlement of Liberia was born. This nigga pulled up the strap, made them niggas sell their land for some boots, some trinkets, and a couple bottles of liquor. He was like, y'all niggas gonna give me the whole coastline, bitch, or you know what I'm saying? King Peter's brains on the curb. You know what I'm saying? So they signed it. You know what I'm saying? As most motherfuckers would. You know what I'm saying? Because they trying to protect the big homie, and they like, shit, we got more land. We'll just go back, regroup, and then come back. You feel me? And that's basically what they did. Shout out to Liberia, man. They weren't taking no shit. They came back, you know what I'm saying, getting it cracking, man. Shout out to my son's people, man. Shout out to the crew. Shout out to the Does. Shout out to the Nimleys. Shout out to the Johnsons over there. Shout out to Miss Wendy and them, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my real Liberians who fought back, who ain't just let a nigga come over from America and step on them. You feel me? Let an Indian come from America and just step on them. Y'all did what y'all had to do, and I understand, you know what I'm saying? Stay strong. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep being Indian strong over here, but we apologize, and one day if this shit becomes, you know what I'm saying, mainstream knowledge, we're gonna get you know what I'm saying, we're gonna redress this shit and we're gonna get y'all right. We're gonna get them people to fuck up out of there and we're gonna get them back over here and you know what I'm saying, make them deal with their own people. You know what I'm saying? If there's any way to get them sent back to America, y'all get that shit done. Get them motherfuckers about your house. Send them Americans home. All right, like the early Sierra Leone settlers, the free slaves who came to Liberia suffered many hardships and mortalities were high. Yeah, just basically you were getting sick because you weren't from there. Attacked by the Day people, they erected American-style stockades and laid out their own new town, Morovia, on an American grid pattern. As a map on the display shows, like American pioneers, they cleared the land for cultivation and began to produce goods and for export. Relations with the Day people improved, and the settlers, most of whom were devout Christians, started missionary schools in the interior. Quakers. And the roles of the American Colonization Society diminished. In 1847, and Liberia declared itself an independent republic. Liberia's democratic constitution was broadly based on that of the United States, but it was Britain which was the first to recognize Liberia officially. Not until 1860, the loyalists. So you see, they went home and they called they daddy government after they took over everything. Daddy, we got it. He said, okay, son, I'm gonna come get them taxes. And he sent over, you know what I'm saying, his white boy. So he make it, you know what I'm saying? The white boys is just basically, as I could so call it, their scapegoat. You know what I'm saying? It's all old staunch niggas doing this, all old black Europeans, you know what I'm saying? Old Celtic, old Breton people who have been sent to America. They keep getting their ass whooped. So they go new places to do the same fuckery thinking it's gonna work and it don't. You know what I mean? Ends up backfiring because the white boy is just a little bit, more slicker and a little bit more heartless than they is. So, it is what it is. Let's keep going. This is always one of my favorites. Augustus Curtis, Liberia and the Slave Trade. Augustus Curtis showed a impetuous streak early while most of the Petersburg free blacks intended to wait until Colston Waring uh, returned from his exploratory trip to Liberia in 1823 before declining about the immigration. Curtis took his young wife, Minerva, and went with Waring, a 21-year-old blacksmith. Curtis was later described as a Cherokee Indian in a little settlement in Monrovia. In 1820, he was initially part of a small elite of literate, urban, and frequently mulatto settlers, but in 1831, Curtis was brought to court in Monrovia over charges of misappropriation of money that had belonged to a young woman from whom he was the guardian, described as well known to be a notorious character by another Petersburg immigrant. The incident may have lost him some status among the settlement residents. Within 3 years, Curtis had left Monrovia for Grand Cape Mount, then outside Liberia's control, while Minervia Curtis left for British Akara. When Joseph Jenkins Roberts, governor of the Liberian colony in 1845, felt they needed to respond to accusations that the Liberian settlers had been complicit in the West African slave trade. Roberts said that he had known only one settler who became involved in the trade, Augustus Curtis. Curtis had moved to an area in the Atlantic coast where the slave trade was prominent. This nigga was getting it cracking. We'll come back to the lower. They became emancipated and settled Liberia with him. On arrival, he accused the authorities of condoning slavery, poor treatment of the colonists, and denounced the colonization scheme. Sheridan refused to become a Liberian citizen. However, he leased 600 acres of land from the Liberian authorities for 20 years. Another renegade, Augustus Curtis, who arrived in Liberia in 1820, was accused by Joseph Roberts as a slave trader in the colony. Only leading Liberians, such as John Lewis, Hilary Teague, and James S. Payne, had also been implicated in the trading of Africans to Europeans. There's no evidence that the ACS aggressively addressed the slave issue in his colony due to the complexity of the scheme of inadequate resources. Some of the slave trade. Let's see for result. No. Keep sending me all these TikToks. This girl crazy. Armed. Okay, slaves through the settlement attempt to induce him to stop. The colony was not okay. Where did I lose it? Aggressively addressed the slave issue in his colony due to the complexity of the scheme of inadequate resources. Some slave traders were friends of the settlers, like John Mills, Bob Gray, and Boatswain. Although Chief Gray helped to save the colony and constituted the trade with the Americans, he remained aggressive warrior for slaves. Though the settlers attempted to induce him to stop, the colony was not large, and a few lightly armed inhabitants generally only acted in self-defense. As a result, some events were ignored, others were underreported for the fear of confirming the anti-colonization self-fulfilling prophecy of the mischaracterization of free African Americans as immoral and unintelligent. Oshman left the colony and went to the Cape Verde Islands along to avoid the upheaval in the settlement. His wife, Catherine D. Gray, died September 15, 1822 from fever after 3 months in the country. Dr. Eli Ayers returned to Liberia for the second time with Ashman's departure was being probed by the ACS. After returning, he attempted to appease the settlers by allocating more land for their use, but the contention continued. Eli returned to the United States. Finally, he took He too, like Ashman, lacked people's management skills. Both men were tactless and uh, I don't know what the hell that is. Paternalist. I don't know what that paternalist. I guess they keep doing shit over and over again. It sounds like they somebody who can't, will do stupid shit. They know it's stupid shit. All right, Lewis Sheridan, the reason of becoming a citizen. Me having refused to become a citizen on the ground by swearing to be a white man's slave threw me out of a pale or regal favor, and I had to take a lease of 600 acres to enable me to carry out my verbal promise made to the society who sent me here. That's deep. All right, we out of there. 1822, the pioneers of what was to become the 25th year theater of free, sovereign, and independent state of the west coast of Africa, to be known as the Republic of Liberia, landed on these shores in a group where few who were craftsmen hailing from colored lodges in the United States of America, under the Prince Hall Grand Lodge Constitution of Boston, Massachusetts. All right, the Secretary of the Navy and the Board of the Managers, despite the hopeful futures that seemed to be opening upon Liberia's contributions to New England, were distinctly disappointing. Expeditions had to be delayed or omitted, and Negroes who desired passage had to be refused, although the society did not give up hope, providing the necessary funds until they had appealed for aid, not only through the ordinary channels, but through the churches, state legislatures, and Masonic orders. In 1829, the managers publicly announced that they needed for funds that uh, never urgent and present. Large drafts had come on us from the colony, and all important that our funds should be greatly increased and speedily. You know what I'm saying? These motherfuckers over there begging for bread. That ain't what I want. I just want to stop and read that. Let's see. Looks like somebody jumped underneath there. I don't know if he was. Yeah, whatever. 1980, the tribal rebels led by Sergeant Samuel Doe from the Liberian army, staged a coup and took control of the country. After 70 people were shot by the government troops during the riot over the rice prices, President William R. Tober Jr., who was also a Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Liberia, was murdered and disemboweled in his bed, and 13 members of his cabinet, almost all Freemasons, were executed 3 days later. Then the fraternity was banned by Doe's regiment, and it was open season on Freemasons. Many were executed, and hundreds more were imprisoned and fled the country. The descendants of the free black settlers from America were seen as hated elite minority, and the indigenous majority ruled the country for the first time in over 130 years. God bless them. You know what I'm saying? 1985, there was talk of restating Freemasonry in Liberia, and a special Prince Hall meeting was held in 1987 in New Orleans for the purpose of installing a new Grand Master. A grand convocation was held, and the next year, the Liberian capital, Monrovia, was gradually Freemason was reestablished. The once majestic Grand Lodge building had been ravaged ravaged and by squatters over the years, but they have been hopefully plans and floated to restore it.
Daughter. Well, he put it on his daughter. She looks cute.
Yes, you do. I didn't.
But
Okay, it says. Let's get back into this. I fucked it up and I didn't record none of what I was talking about. I've been sitting over reading for like 10 minutes, shit, my niggas. I've been reading. I've been reading. All right. It says the record continued use of the script remains popular among the Vai people today. Used about 20% of Vai men for the purpose of recording and keeping correspondence, translations for the Quran and the Bible, and public announcements. And for the creation of original text, the script remains as an important expression of Vai identity. And the modern forms of the syllabary contains up to 212 characters and is written from left to right. From Mamula, Duwulu, Buckley. Buckley is a motherfucking Jewish last name. So whoever the fuck he is, he sure ain't the fuck 100% African. Is regarded by many as the inventor of the Vai script. Bullshit. Those Vai men who assisted him in devising characters might also be regarded as inventors. The enterprise of inventing the script was creating a novel set characters to fill out and then introducing them to the Vai community at large must attribute it to Buckley as and his associates, but the general historian inventors unmistakably demonstrate that both as inventions itself and historical take-up, depending on the appropriate historical circumstances. In the early 19th century, the Vai were under cultural pressures from several different directions. And by 1820, were the contracted for the four literature groups: European traders with their accounts, Islamic teachers with their Quran, Christian missionaries with their Bibles, and literature Liberian colonists. The last two elements were most recent arrivals of the combined influence were probably the reason why the decisive moments of the construction of the social success of the Vai script occurred when it did. Thus, the emergence of the Vai script illustrates a balance between independent invention and stimulus diffusion. In recent years, compelling evidence has emerged suggested that the original design of the Vai syllabary was not suggested by either Roman alphabet or the Arabic constitutional alphabet. I don't know what that's consonant alphabet. So consonant, I think that means it has no vowels. Consonants would probably have to be no vowels, so it'd be consonants. So consonant, because yeah, that is the Arabic language, the language of a bunch of J's. It's like 1,000 different letters of J's written, and then yeah, I don't think Arabic or Hebrew have any vowels. I think there's something like that. The decade invention of the Vai syllabary was consonable alphabet. Rather, another syllabary, the Cherokee syllabary of North America, invented in 1821. The decade of the invention of the Vai syllabary was marked by American missionaries' uh, experimentation in Liberia with the Cherokee syllabary as the model for writing Liberian language. It may also be important to that one of the leading men in Vai County at the time of the invention of the Vai script was a Cherokee. This man, Austin Curtis, had immigrated to Liberia after the spread of the Cherokee syllabary and settled in Vai country 4 years before the invention of the Vai syllabary. So boom. I didn't get the rest of it, but yeah, it went all the way down to the Mende. They taught the Mende, the Tende, all them niggas how to write Cherokee. That was that. What I put on voice page. We did that. Boom, back to this. Okay. The Negro Secret Order went by more than one nickname, including African American Mystic Order and the Men of Oppression, Order of Immigration, and in one book, the League of Freedom. It was formed by free blacks who helped those who remained in bondage and moved to free territory. The order operated for a decade or more under a decade or more under a large membership and played a role in John Brown's final plans. Lambert himself was a friend of John Brown and participated in the meeting at Chapman's Canada West, which preceded the Harper's Ferry raid. In 1886, the reporters from the Detroit Tribune interviewed Lambert about his Underground Railroad activities, and during the interview, he showed them a reporter two sheet bound books that he kept in his desk, along with a copy of the Walker's Appeal to Freedom, a letter from John Brown, William Lloyd Garrison, Wendell Phillips, and uh, Lucretia Mott. The book also held Lambert's handwriting records and ritual degrees, test words, grips, emblems, and this is lessons of the Negro Secret Order. There were three degrees of membership: the captive, the redeemed, and the chosen. And with the first degree, the captive, there was a special step called confidence, designed for the agents of the Underground Railroad with progressively difficult to stage the rulers and the judges and the princes, the chevaliers, the Ethiopia, the sterling black knights, and the knights of San Domingo. There was no evidence of a woman in the organization. A law suggests that the membership was for males only. Whites, however, could join and pass certain loyalty tests, but their numbers were small and they belonged to their own chapter and restrict access. And few whites meant to be admitted to one of the highest degrees of the Negro Order was Richard Rolfe, a friend of John Brown, revered for his anti-slavery poetry, and the Grand Lodge Order was located in Detroit and Jefferson Avenue between Bates and Randolph. John Kenzo, the first generation African American of Sherbo, originated as a key figure in the early history of Sierra Leone. Kenzo was a black loyalist and a Baptist who belonged to David George Baptist congregation of African American. Kenzo served as a intermediary between the British colonial government and the inhabitants of his native Shrebo Island off the coast of Sierra Leone. Shrebo Chalkers and Shrebo Cleveland's. Kenzo was one of 50 African Americans that immigrated to Sierra Leone who was born in Africa. Kenzo also worked with an agent of the American Colonization Society, including Samuel Bacon, Samuel Crozer, as well as with African Americans settled to help colonize the territory, for whom later became the Republic of Liberia. So you see, these motherfuckers was just fucking up everybody. Sounds funny. All right. It says concentrating that happened in the library in the United States at the time. The board of which the sole authority of the civil government in the colony is the city of Boston. Republic's opinion has not risen to the elevation which enables the policies to prevent the sale of adherent spirits. There is no grog shop in Liberia, while the administrative steps were taken to discourage the use of alcohol. Such raising a license of $300 to the board did not believe that enacting laws is the best way to end the practice, especially when alcohol was used as a medium of exchange with the natives. In some instances, the authorities depended on power of gospel to transform the colonists and their neighbors without legalism. Both British and American attempts to rely on diplomacy in combating slavery in the hitherlands. Somewhat, they were able to get some chiefs to cooperate, and disassociating with the European slave trade. The strategy did not always work, and it ended up in hostilities. Often the British and Americans looked away as their own nationals engaged in nefarious trade in plain sight. In case of Sierra Leone and Liberia, the ACS board was also aware of the slavery in the colony and the tendency of the settlers to indulge in polygamous and concubinary practices and treated, concluding the War of the Day with day, including an article declaring that no woman shall be given or sold as a wife to any of the recaptured Africans or other persons under the protection of the colony. So basically, if they took your wife or your family, you couldn't even get them back. Many of the former slaves rose up in prominence in the United States, also becoming slaveholders. Some of them ended up in Liberia in 1837. Louis Sheridan, instance, was a former wealthy black merchant in the South, arrived from North Carolina as a rich farmer. He owned 16 slaves, and this 16 slave owning ass nigga ends up in Liberia owning more slaves. You know what I'm saying? Going here to start another slave trade. So you can see these Indians, the same Indians they were saying were having Negro slaves in the South. They took their ass to Liberia and did the same shit. I always thought this was funny. This came out of eugenics book. You know what I'm saying? This is all a little off topic, but it's good to be heard. In a few years, Sir Bateau Free will return to England, and the public attention will be directed to the east coast of Africa. I can't really see what what the fuck that is. Mysterious of availing myself to the opportunity to I don't know if that's O or A or W. You can't see none of that. Some speculations of my own, which you may perhaps consider the significant interest and deserve publication in the time. My proposal is to make the encouragement of Chinese settlement at one or more suitable places on the east coast of Africa. At the part of the national policy is the belief that the Chinese immigrants would not only maintain their position, but that they would multiply and their descendants supplant the inferior Negro race. So if you put the Chinese in Africa, they're gonna remove the nigga. I should expect a large part of the African seaboard now living under the nominal sovereignty of Zanzibar or Portugal might in a few years be tenanted by the industrial order loving Chinese, living either in semi detached dependencies of China or else in perfect freedom under their own laws. In the latter case, their position would be similar to that of the inhabitants of Liberia and West Africa. The territory was purchased 50 years ago and a part of the independent state. As you can see, they really want the Chinese in Africa real bad. And if you see when this was written, as to right now, these motherfuckers done did it. They done made it a thing. Shout out to Phoenix Moon. That's where that source came from. Boom. That's the Grand Lodge of Liberia. Looks like the White House, right? Damn. The Grand Lodge of Liberia. Oh, and then it says in West Africa, alternately called the Vai or the Gillians of the Mande language, spoken by the Vai people, roughly with the population of 104,000 in Liberia and some 15,000 in Sierra Leone. Vai means water in Vai, and similar words in other language, including but not limited to Y, Proto-Nuclear Polynesian, Wari and Proto-Oceanic, Proto-Eastern Malayo-Polynesian, Proto-Central Eastern Malayo-Polynesian, and the Wari Melanesian, all which were derived from a common ancestral word, Wa. Vai is noteworthy from being one of the few African languages to have a written system that is not based on Latin Arabic script. The Vai Syllabaric writing is derived from the Vai language by mono. We're back to that Buckley bullshit. In the interesting note, the Cherokee syllabary of North America provided a model for the design of the Vai syllabary. The Vai syllabary emerged at the AD in 1832 and 1833. The link appears to have been related to a Cherokee who immigrated to Liberia after the Cherokee syllabary, which is 8 years, spread rapidly among the Cherokees. But before the invention of the Vai syllabary, one such man, Cherokee Austin, married into a prominent Vai family and became an important Vai chief himself. It is notable the romantic inscription on the house. The few drew the words attention to existence of Vai script was in fact the home of Curtis, a Cherokee. Then why is Vai writing system, which is used in Vai speaking in West Africa, structurally influenced by the Cherokee script in the United States? Given geographically proximities, many Eurasians civilizations, West Africans should have more opportunities to develop writing systems in base of Latin Greek letters. This is why the Vai writing system borrowed from Cherokee script and Latin Greek, and of course Cherokee by marriage as mentioned above. It's a key factor. Yeah, Sequoia. He came up with that. Shout out to Tyrone. He used to be killing their ass. In Liberia, English to Liberian ethnic of the African group of the Afro-Caribbean liberated African descent, a sister ethnic group of the American Liberians and Sierra Leone Creole people. They shared a similar ancestry and related culture. American Liberians trace their ancestry back to freeborn, formerly enslaved African Americans. They immigrated in the 19th century to become the founders of the state of Liberia. Blah, 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 blah. As we get through that, boom, it says Sierra Leone, the people are known as the Creole people. And for Group Sierra Leone, the Creole people descended of freed African Americans and West Indians liberated to African slaves who settled in western areas and blah blah blah. You see, right now they was mad. They were calling the Kongvua versus the country. They was calling them the invaders the Kongua. And basically niggas is trying to sell them out to Coca-Cola. Again, they's trying to basically send them niggas to Coca-Cola. Haile Selassie, weird ass. And that might be all I have. I might be able to make one more stop for y'all. What was the other underground railroad shit? Let's go back to the book. I mean, back to the gram. I know I got it on something over there. we got sidetracked. The Mackenzieite. Boom. That's what we was on. Let's see if we can. As we sit here and we look at John Morrell, who is this? This is a motherfucking Indian. Said the known claims were originally derived from Stewart's history and deduction and conviction of the designer John Morrell. See above. He is known as a land pirate using the Mississippi River as a base of operation. He used a network anywhere from 300 Stewart and estimates to 1,000 quoted in Mark Twain's life on the Mississippi to 2,500 newspaper recorded claims that the fellow bandits, collectively known as the Mystic Clan, to pull off his escapades. Many of these were members of a cultural ethnic group such as the Melungeons and the Redbones. He was also known as a bushwhacker. To attack. I'm surprised if he didn't place the ambush. Confederate secessionist guerrilla to Missouri, where such warfare was most intense. Okay, the bushwhackers, a guerrilla warfare specialist of the Natchez Trace. Okay, yeah, we'll come back to the Mystic Clan. We gotta get this book off, homeboy. Virgil Stewart. Alright, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I done dug in enough of this shit, but we just got Virgil Stewart's his confession, his little snitch book. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he was right or wrong for snitching, but he snitched. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We gonna get into this next time because it's taking it too forever to load. And I done had y'all on it forever. Y'all have a good night, man. It's 11:42 from the O. Uh, we love y'all, man. Keep your head up. Keep your mind open. You know what I'm saying? Tell them bye, baby.
Good night, y'all.
All right. I'll let y'all later, my niggas, my Indians, my white folks, all that.